Here we go. Hi, welcome to ControlTalk Now, your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the weekend ending August 9th, 2020. This is episode 374, where we talk about HVAC and smart building controls, talk about what's going on in our control world, and we talk with your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the alleged ninja control man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Kenny Smyers. Kenny, welcome to the show, big dog.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. And the ninja, we're going to hear that word a couple more times here before the show's over. And got a great show. It's going to be a short intro because we'll go right to the show and got
double header,
double feature. Yeah,
feature, man. We got so many people lined up that want to come on the show that we normally just have one guest. We're making the shows a little bit longer to sort of accommodate the demand for the people that want to be on the show. So we're flattered that people like our venue and want to be on the show. And we got really great guests with really germane, important information to share. So we're super, super pumped up. But before we get to our first guest, Kenny, our sponsor of this week's show is none other than Distech Controls. Distech is a platinum sponsor of the Controltrends Awards. And as part of being a platinum sponsor, all our platinums get to sponsor shows. And Distech's a sponsor of this week's show. So special thanks to Distech Controls.
Yeah, and congratulations. They really got a good impetus on getting, as they will learn from Sam Sharma here shortly, that Distech's out front. They got a really neat program, HVAC Controls Fundamental Workshops, that they're availing to the industry at large.
Okay, well, cool. Well, why don't we just bring Sam on right away? He's our first guest, and how about introducing Sam from Distech?
Sounds good. Eric, I'd love to. We have Sam Sharma, Director of Technical Support and Training at Distech Controls. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Welcome, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it. Pleasure being here.
Well, listen, we are so thrilled to have you. We're big fans of Distech and love Martin and the rest of the team. And you guys do a great job. But it seems like if somebody comes to Distech, it's like a home. You guys, nobody seems to leave. Everybody seems to want to join. First of all, let's just talk a little about Distech. How did you wind up there, and what are the pros and cons of working with Distech?
No, 100%. So ended up Distech. In fact, it was I was working for a Fortune 500 company before I came to Distech. So when I came up with the opportunity, it was interesting because it was 2008. Distech was still predominantly lawn, and I think around then we started launching our backnet line. So when I had the opportunity, it was kind of like, do I take this risk and come to a company that's brand new? It's still kind of getting up there, and I took the chance and I went there, and I never regret it. It's been exciting. It's constant. You're always learning. The company's always innovating. And, they're always pushing the limits. People get bored, right? People really get bored. They come to a company, same thing day in, day out. They learned it all, and now they're waiting for the next thing. And Distech, we're innovating every quarter. We're coming out with new firmwares, new products. We're listening to our customers and what they need, at the same time trying to be at the cutting edge of what is needed in the industry. And I think, we're able to provide that to our customers, right? Openly as well. So always keeping the end user ahead of that.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about on this episode because you guys, I agree with everything you said. And one of the things you guys did, you responded immediately to the COVID sort of pandemic, if you will. So speak a bit about, what you guys did and what you guys are doing now vis-a-vis COVID.
Great. No, so yeah, when COVID hit, I think it was a game changer for everybody. And the minute it hit, we did a lot of instructor-led training because we like the customers to have a lot of hands-on with the product. We found that was important. And now when it came to this type of environment, we couldn't go to our customers, right? So what did we do now? So we still wanted to make sure that we don't do too much online stuff and everybody gets bored and they fall asleep at their desk. So we brought the trainer to the virtual world, and they're there live instructing with you. We set up all our training cases back at the headquarters, and you're virtually connected via Tozy Box into our realm. So our entire training team and tech support team came together and made this happen. So within a month, we're up and running with a virtual environment. So we had a lot of learning to do. And even Distech themselves, we still plowed forward and we said, hey, listen, we're going to make sure we get our customers what they want. So what do we do with our customers? Right now, they're probably sitting in their office or they're probably sitting in their house. So we said, let's do sessions every day from 11:30 to 1:30, even 2:30, and train them on our product. Let's just be transparent and get the knowledge out there And we did that, and we posted those videos in our forum, and customers are acknowledging that, and they're asking, hey, how do I get access to those videos? I want to see them again. I forgot how to do that. I forgot how to do this. So I think, we're being transparent, bring the knowledge out there is tremendous for everybody.
Well, it's a great reinforcement tool. I know our customers it really enjoyed that, and they would look forward to it because it was so appropriate. In other words, it was very relative. It wasn't just random training. It was specific training on applications that these guys, the more information they have and the more, efficacy they get out of it, the better they're going to be. But you guys have really launched something new. And I never was into martial arts, but I always, as soon as I heard the word ninja, boy, I'd start doing the
Hey,
Bruce Lee stuff.
Sam, do not believe Kenny. Kenny is a ninja. He actually, I've seen his little outfit with the black hood and all, and Kenny is a guy that the government will use. I mean, periodically, if you watch the show, Kenny's not on the show. And Kenny, I'm just going to say it now, okay? But if there's some overseas type thing or something, they need to send a ninja in there.
Eric just watched John Wick.
Kenny does his thing, okay? So,
Kenny,
but anyway.
You should have worn the ninja suit today. No, you should have worn that today. I was excited to see it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe next time. But like Eric says, I have to keep that stuff low profile so I don't get myself in trouble,
Yeah.
Anyhow, I applied what Distech's doing because there's two things that I think are core to what I'm going to say next. And that is, number one, we could sure use a boost in the number of technicians and qualified people in our industry. And number two, this training used to be very costly, and it costly both in terms of money and time. And Distech has done something now, and it involves how to become a ninja in the HVAC world. So tell us about your HVAC controls fundamental workshops and how you guys brought that into being, and what that means to the world at large.
Yeah, so again, we're being transparent. We have a fundamentals workshop, so kind of educating all the contractors and engineers to give them controls knowledge, right? So we released a training, which is our end user operator training and project management training, I would say, and it's educating them. So it's funny, I walk into all these trainings and people are, they don't understand it. They think there's only specific things you can do in a building, and they want to know what those specific things are. But the minute you open up their eyes and say, hey, there's so much more that you can bring into your building. It's more than just alarms and trends. Like, we have so much data that we can pull in. And if you're an open system, we can bring all that data in. And that's what's happening in the world today, is that everything is open. The more open you are, the more data you're allowing in that we can take and say, hey, you have all this data. What do you want to do with it? And if you don't know what you want to do with it, we know. We can take all the data and knowing where people are. You got the post-COVID, what's that going to look like, right? So, what type of filters you're going to put in. That's the whole entire thing on that Anoop did. And if you register on our website, it's basically COVID versus carbon laws. What type of filters do you have to think about, right? What is your, how much outside air should you be bringing into a building now? And how are you keeping people safe? Where should people be sitting in an office space now, right? Before, we used to have high cubicles. Now we cut them out because we wanted a bit more openness. Now we cut all those cubicles in half, but now you're exposing everybody. But what's the best practice out there? And we have some, talent in there with Anoop and Grant that's kind of talking to that and what tomorrow looks like. And now when we bring in this fundamentals workshop, we're going through controls basics. We're going through, protocols. What does it mean? What's an open system? Like, how do you know we have an open system? What does that mean, right? And as a building owner, what should I be looking for, right? So educating them on that. And then, I got an MSTP network. And does that mean I got to stay MSTP for the rest of my life? No, but how do I bring that to an IP type of network, right? Just like your house right now, you're like, man, I'm upstairs watching Netflix, but my router's all the way downstairs. How come it's all choppy, right? It's kind of that mentality and bringing like things that you're already familiar with and saying, this is what we're doing with the IP world. It's getting the data there as fast as possible and getting more data in. What's an API, right? So every time, like when I'm looking for softwares, I'm looking for things that have open APIs. And that's important for anybody to say, hey, you know what? I want to be able to leverage any data or talk to any type of data out there. We got end users that are very, very savvy, and they want to know, hey, you got open APIs? Okay, cool. That's all I need to know. I'll grab the data I need. So people are getting smarter out there. You got control specifications that are made easy, control software and security. And then, we go a bit under the hood on, controls user interface and a bit of a crash course on graphics, what your graphics can look like. And, do you want the basic, or do you want the expert of what your building is really doing, right? So we can always start small and grow big. And I think that's the big message you have to get across. Is what's important to you? What do we feel it's important? Let's come meet in the middle or give you everything you need, right?
No, I love it. I love it, Sam. And I think that, one of the maybe silver linings with this whole pandemic is that people really have had more time to stop and reflect and think about what they want to do going forward. And I think you guys are spot on with giving people the tools they need to really reevaluate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that getting those tools out there and giving the customer the ability to take in whatever they need and being completely open. And really being open is being transparent. It's like saying, hey, look, we got nothing to hide. What kind of data do you want? And the more data you bring in, I mean, you look at, we're security brands now as well. We got lighting, we got access control, we got CCTV. People will be, they want to monitor all this, and now they want to understand, how do I come back into work tomorrow? And that's what customers are asking. They want to know, how do I go back to work tomorrow? How am I safe? Right? So how do I get into a building with knowing that somebody else yesterday didn't have COVID and walked into my building? Those type of things. So being
Right.
at that forefront is important, right? So I think
But
that's where we are.
Well, and I think you're spot on too. I mean, there's a lot of talk now, and in Ken Sinclair's automated buildings issue this month, the August issue, he's talking about communities of trust, and I think trust is the operative word. It seems like you guys are giving people the ability to demonstrate trust, meaning that if you're a building owner, you have to demonstrate to your tenants that it's safe for their people to come back in. And it seems like you guys are allowing that. And speak a bit more about maybe a specific about how you guys can do that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways of grabbing data and understanding where you are. So for example, the access control world, if somebody comes in and badges in, right now your access control world can have a Bluetooth badge on your phone, right? You forget your badge at home, you're not going to go home and get it. But you forget your phone, guaranteed you're going to go home and get your phone, right? So if you have Bluetooth enabled on your phone, you can walk in, and then let's say that person gets sick and it goes, hey, you know what, guys, I'm sick. I went to the hospital. I got COVID, for example. You'll be able to disable that badge for 14 days and track that individual, right? Understand where people are in your building. So as they walk around, if he comes in, scans his badge, security guard's going to know right away and say, hey, this guy tried to come in, right? Coming to the HVAC world, understanding where people are at the same time, keeping people safe. The filtration process that's going to happen now. What type of MERV type filters do you have? You have a MERV 10, which is post, MERV 15, which is post, and the pre is MERV 10. The middle, you probably have a MERV 13 type filtration system. The type of particles that come in, how much more fresh air is going to be coming in. So all that data we have to kind of look at, and when everybody goes back to work, we have to be able to educate our system integrators and tell them, hey, this is things that you need to know about, and we have to bring this to the end user, to the engineers, to the contractors, to make sure they're aware and they're having these conversations. Because if the conversations don't happen, it's going to be devastating when something does happen, right? They're going to say, how come nobody ever thought of this? So we want to be there, right, before it happens.
Sam, you're hitting on all the touch points that we that are critical. And again, Distech has the ability. They've got an incredible product portfolio. I wanted to go back. Originally, you had said that you can do all these amazing things and educate the building owner and the users that there's a lot more under the hood. That right now you just do alarms, trends, or whatever, but what you're helping these people do is identify business cases of how to really save money, how to really improve their operations, how to charter how people go back and forth throughout a building. You've got the coffee pot over there in the far end of the office, and everybody's desks are here. You move the coffee pot over here, you got less people walking around the office. You have all these opportunities that I think. So when you look under the hood, you're giving these people a really strong reason. So energy efficiency is great. Indoor air quality is a must. You must monitor the temperature, humidity, the pressure in spaces, whether it's positive or negative. But also there's an opportunity for building owners to learn so much more about their buildings. They can actually save money. They can make logistic decisions. They can do so much more. So I think just that the whole appeal to the end users to educate them beyond the traditional BAS HVAC stuff. I think Distech has taken a premier lead in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is when I go talk to a lot of operators, end users, they're like you hit a spot on. Like they're just talking about alarms and trends, and it's bigger than that, right? It's like, hey, you know what? You save me 20 grand this month, and I'll give you a commission on it. Now you're enabling these guys to go back and say, wow, you know what? I want to be. What can I do? How do I understand my building a bit better, right? You give them a nice graphic and say, how come this room's always hot all the time? Well, the blinds are up. There's so much heat coming in. How do I create that from not getting too hot, right? How do I, and now they're going to start having logical and more smarter conversations with the system integrator. Say, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this. I want to understand my building a bit better. I understand this is happening all the time. Because right now, they don't know what they should be looking at. They're just, okay, give me what I need, and I'm gonna look at alarms all day. Give me instructions of what the alarms are, and not even to that extent, you know? So going the step further of having them understand their building, where you can make changes, and where people are in a building.
Right.
Why am I occupying this space? Why is it a conference room if nobody's using it, right? Let's convert that into something else where we can put that space there. And now because of COVID, you probably have to have certain spaces per week so that you can track people. And you know, that could be the tomorrow is everybody, when they walk into the building, they're going to get a prompt notification that you're in the Dispatch Controls building. Where, you know, are you okay with us knowing your location? You click OK. Now we know where you've been in the building, where you're scanning your badge, where your locations are. If somebody does get it, we know the possible affected individuals in that space as well. And that's what's going to happen tomorrow.
To your point, I just was talking to somebody now that on the number of people and the amount of time, the dwell time they're in a place, they know the cleaning schedules can be readjusted now so that the most trafficked areas are first on the priority list. They get cleaned first. So you have schools that are doing A, B, C, D. They got teams. They got, you know, A team coming in Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday's a clean day. Thursday and Friday, B team comes in with their classes and teachers, whatever. So they're staggering stuff. But, you know, the reality is if you don't have some help, some automated help to know where people were, to know what resources, you know, what wasn't touched, what is, you know, it just creates a logical procession, a decision tree of where you go first. I mean, it's so remarkable. And you could do that if you have a BAS system that's well within your purview.
Right. Yeah, even with the lighting system, you're able to look at where people are, indoor positioning. We're already doing that with a lot of you know, massive retailers in the US right now. We understand where people are. So if we can take that and piggyback what's happened with COVID and even future, like you never know, this might not be the first one. It could be many after this, but how do we be, you know, proactive in this situation for tomorrow, right?
Well, yeah, listen, I want to teach your guys horn a little bit because, you know, you guys have the great products and you guys are, you know, a part of Acuity brand. So you guys understand the lighting. And, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, I went out to your place in Lithonia to do a tour. And, you know, you can talk about location, but we use that kind of as a buzzword, but you guys have been doing that for quite some time. I mean, literally in some of the models I saw, if somebody was dwelling in, like for a retail, in front of the potato chips for a while, you know, you knew they were there. You would give you, you know, analytics and data that you could use. You could even send them a code if they were signed up for it. My point being, Distech to me is more than just a product. You guys think in terms of business solutions. And I think that one of the things that people are going to be doing when we come out of this COVID is you're going to be playing catch up, right? We've all lost a lot of money in this. And not only the fact that you can make the building safer, which you've got to do and create trust, but you guys, again, are going to be able to help people save energy. Because if you're opening the outside air out, bringing more outside air in, that means your energy bills are probably going to go up. But you guys have the ability to, for example, use lighting temperature as a stage of cooling. So your first stage of cooling could be, we're going to cool the lights down a little bit. Or the first stage of heat could be, we're going to warm the lights up a little bit. And you guys are very adapted at sort of bringing that into the solution set as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of ways around it, right? And if you even know about the lighting levels, we can make it look cooler in a room versus even touching the thermostat, right? So you touch the thermostat, and if it's only a 1 or 2 degree set point adjustment, we'll change the light level so you feel warmer or cooler, whether it's a yellow hue or a blue hue to make you feel warmer or cooler, right? So things like that, absolutely. In the HVAC world, and we're touching all parts of it. And in reality, it's finding out what does the customer really want, right? So I think we still need to find out what is the perfect solution for every customer, and depending what they want. You know, it's almost having that conversation. Do you want to have the most energy efficient building out there, or do you want to just be status quo and stay the way it is? And we'll just give you a couple of pointers here and there. Even though our product by itself is giving you a lot of energy efficiency, where do you want to sit? So now with the lighting, knowing where people are, where they're dwelling, where they're staying, it's a lot of information. You know, turning on your light levels in a store that has 1,400 fixtures, over 100 stores across the U.S. By one finger click, you're reducing that light level from 100% to 5% on 1,400 light fixtures times 100 stores. Imagine how much energy you're saving there as well, right? So.
Oh, no, you know, absolutely. And it gets even past energy. And if I have to edit this out, I will. But one of the applications that really blew me away, there was a major airport, and you guys helped them figure out that their major inefficiency was not knowing where the wheelchairs were when they had to wheelchair people in and off of an airplane, not being able to find them, cost them tons and tons of money. And you guys were again able to use the location service in such a way that when somebody requested one, they knew exactly where one was, which just eliminated, the operational expense. So you guys just don't think energy. You think energy, but you also think operational efficiencies as well. And, and it's great to talk about those things. It's even better when you've actually done things like that.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right. And, with the new Eclipse building intelligence, it's going to be, the reach is even further at this point. And we're really excited about that. I mean, you're looking at artificial intelligence, you're looking at security, design for efficiency. There's a developer framework behind it. So tomorrow, I don't know how the offices are going to change tomorrow, but when they do change, it's kind of like everything's going to be on your phone. You're going to get your access control card when you come into the phone. You'll probably even get a Google Maps on that email. The minute you open up that app that has an SDK, which is a software development kit already built in. So you'll be able to create, like the building owner or a facilities manager, be able to create his own environment for his own space and know his building, right? So when somebody says, hey, that place there had an outbreak or whatever it is, or somebody was sick or somebody got hurt, you know where it's happening, you know what's happening. It's getting as much data as quickly as possible to your end user is the biggest thing, right? And information that's important, I think.
Yeah. Sam, you're hitting on all the good stuff. Firstly, it was the productivity being key. Eventually, the buildings are going to be repopulated. We're tracking some of the best guesses from the realty companies, Cushman Wakefield, CBRE. They're all saying, maybe 2023, second quarter 2023, there's going to be probably a surge back to buildings because of the people content, that there's going to be, not a pendulum swing, but there's going to be a desire to come back in once things are safe, once they figured out vaccines and whatever. And to your point, we don't know what's going to happen next. What's the next bad thing lurking around the time corner? Could be COVID-20 or whatever it might be. Whatever we do now with buildings, it's got to make it, it's got to have a future-proof sticker on it so that we can keep making things better. But you hit two of the big things. Well, productivity, meaning that if you make that environment and you put everything on the phone, you've accomplished two things. You've got a better relationship with the person's relationship to the space. They're going to want to be there. They're going to feel better. They don't have to walk over and touch a thermostat anymore. So the contact points are being solved. The blue point access control is being solved so that the minimal touches inside of a facility is now being counted. There are people want to know how many times you got to turn on lights, how many times you got to put a human hand on a fixture or a setting or a dial or whatever. Or actually, there's people doing surveys on that to see how they can eliminate it. So I think having that head start, having that marvelous interface you have with a smartphone to your system to control the lighting. I mean, you guys have one of the full total room automation style, building management systems or building automation systems. You guys got the whole enchilada. Eric and I were very fortunate. We went down to Washington, D.C., and Distech has a contest every 2 years for the most, the most exciting, most innovative, most integrated building. And we got a chance to see it. And I'll tell you, it was remarkable. It really was.
Well, yeah, we got to video it and everything. Kenny, we should probably put a link to that video in this week's show so people can see it. But yeah, the building was, and it was, again, to your point, Sam and Kenny, it was a collaboration, right? The consulting engineer, the tenants were included in it, the property management people, the integrator. It was just amazing to see what could happen when all those parties came together and worked together. And of course, right in the hub of it was your control system.
Yeah, and getting the system integrator involved and educating, the property manager, educating the end user, that now the questions that are coming from them are a lot more like, I can't see this. I want to see a bit more energy data on how much I'm actually pulling in my energy. Hey, we got blips that happen in the building every so often. Can we look at those? Yeah, absolutely. We can actually pull all that data. And what contributes to that is having an open system, right? So we're completely open. We got AI built into the new, Eclipse building intelligence. Nobody's thinking about AI right now. And, we're talking about BACnet. BACnet's, it's unfortunate. Maybe we might have to edit this out, but BACnet's going away. If you're not thinking about APIs, if you're not thinking about AI, you're not thinking about complete openness, it's going to be crazy. When you go look for a thermostat or an Amazon or whatever it is that you're looking at, you want to be able to look at how I can turn my lights on and off, how I can turn my temperatures on and off, how I can get as much data in my house without having to get proprietary things in my house that I need to connect to, right?
Right. Well, Sam, along those lines, you guys were one of the first to come out with an IP control system. For our community who might not know, what is the advantage to IP versus, say, BACnet or LawnWorks or any of the other protocols?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So if you look at, LawnWorks is, it's very forgiving, right? And it talks a certain way, and there's a lot of mistakes you can make in LawnWorks. And I've definitely, starting at Distech Controls and tech support, I've definitely gotten the calls on that. It's you can screw up a lot in LawnWorks. There's a lot of error and transmission errors that come in. People walk in, you can T-tap a LawnWorks network and screw up with your terminators, for example. So there's a lot of mistakes you make around LawnWorks, and it hasn't evolved as quickly. And then when BACnet came along, it was flying. There's an open standard there for BACnet. And then we went with the MSTP line. And I think we did a great job in the MSTP line. We came out, a 1/8 load control, which means you can put 50 devices on a trunk, which is huge. And that was like, wow, that's amazing. And you can put so many devices in a building and satisfy an entire building. But yet, what the biggest challenge was on both BACnet, MSTP, and LAN was data was not coming back to the end user fast enough. So like, hey, how come it took like, a couple of seconds or 30 seconds or even 10 seconds from a data update? So then we said, you know what, guys, I think BACnet IP is the way to go. Now you talk BACnet IP, you're talking about, megabytes per second. And you're talking about data is coming back so quickly. And not only that, but you're not using Belden specific cabling anymore. You're using Cat5, Cat6, right? So it's very easy to get data across. And not only that, your backbone now between buildings, you set up buildings, you put a fiber backbone and you go Cat5 out to your floors and you aggregate that entire building, you got data coming back so quickly. So you can see how the calls change from understanding BACnet, MSTP, and how it's set up to a very networking mentality now, where people are like, hey, how do I set up my building properly at an IP level? And that's what it's coming out right now. We see a lot of that. People are trying to educate themselves. Like, the industry is not that well educated yet on setting up a IP network in a building. So they think it's like, a Cat5 cable and that goes between controllers and we're good to go. So we had to really think about how do we network our controllers together to be as efficient and as quick as possible? How do we respect the current IT infrastructure in a building and Wi-Fi infrastructure in a building, right? And bring all that data back to a cloud-based, server, a VM, or even a server that lives in the building. What's the most efficient way of doing that? And you know what? I think it's now you're talking as fast as the rest of the world, right? We were behind a long time ago. Now we're catching up. We really are catching up, and everybody's got to catch up. Everybody's got to self-educate and learn a bit more. And I'm guilty too. I got to educate myself. I mean, I got guys on my team that are way smarter than me, and I have to. I'm like, hey man, my nights are studying stuff and understanding what's happening in the IT world, and at the same time, what are all these other businesses doing, right? It's getting challenging for everybody, but I assure you that the effort in learning all that is well spent, and that's the exciting part about Distech is that you're constantly learning and you're constantly pushing forward, and there's no stop, so it's never a boring day.
I wanted to just remind everybody that there was the district center down in Washington, D.C., and we had the meeting at the district center's penthouse, and we got to mention Jones Lang LaSalle. They had an incredible, basically a specification. The customer was a MetLife, and it was smart IBT. But I think it has a lot to do with your progress. You were talking about how you might have been behind the power curve, and then some changes, some lightning bolts came into the Distech thing, the Acuity, buying Distech and then making those pockets deep and wide, and the leadership you had. I just want to give a shout out to Ed Liming, Tony Eisenhower, Scott Hamilton, and Martin Villanueva, because it's the leadership structure that does that. It empowers the corporate culture has changed at Distech. It was noticeable, it was tangible. People noticed you guys were growing at an exponential rate, and all of a sudden you were pulling demand in a way that some of the other vendors weren't. And so that was an exciting time period to see the growth of Distech in his last 4 years. Distech really pulled, it created some blue space between, a lot of their competitors. And it was, I think Martin had a lot to do with it. And I think, getting Scott on your team and then bolstering that whole, energizing the whole network inside Distech. It seems like it has a very cool culture, cool life. And
yeah,
who's your favorite guy up there?
Say more about the culture for sure.
Mr. Sen, Ryan is Eric's favorite. When they get together, there's shenanigans all over the place all the time. but
Yeah.
he's a great guy. He's
Yeah.
just a lot of fun.
Ryan goes, we are the North, and I go, we are the South, and we go together. We are the world, baby.
So it's a lot of fun. You guys are enjoying yourself and succeeding. So it's a nice little combination there.
Absolutely. No, I think it's everybody at Distech Controls has a voice, and I think that's very important. Everybody in my team, everybody at Distech Controls, you're not just a number, and the leadership understands that. They know that, hey, there's a lot of value in here, and we're the voice of the customer, right? Tech support and every single department out there, training, we can just do our jobs and be done with it, right? But in reality, when you get that tech support call, you can make it, what are you really doing with that? What are you really doing with that network? So yeah, you know what? We could use these cables, but talk to me a bit more about what you're doing. And if you get deeper, like, oh, wow, I didn't know that, really? Because nobody has time to research everything. I mean, people are with different vendors, different things. A lot of things are happening, but the more you're educating them on the phone and bringing that voice of customer back to the product team, everybody's very intense at Distech. And again, it's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people stay. We have the oldest tech support individual in our team is 13 years, and the youngest one is 4 years, and they grow within the department. There's very little turnover. So we have 8 teams in every single department. Marketing, sales. The sales team works really well with all teams, right? It's really we're all really a close family, I'd say.
Well, I want to say something real quick to you. Sorry, the directress of marketing is one of my favorite people, Lauren Scott. But I just love the fact that you guys throw the Canadian twist into there. It's not marketing director, it's directress. Am I saying that right? Directress marketing. But Lauren's also a very talented, very exciting. She recently published a very, very interesting article, but say, do we look back or do we look forward? And it was a forward-facing, very optimistic, about this COVID-19 not being, it's a setback for sure, and it's a game changer. But let's move forward and take advantage of all the opportunities it has presented us. So it was kind of cool.
Absolutely, you definitely learn by, you learn a lot by being at the bottom of the hill than at the top of the hill. I'd say that much, right? So you learn a lot by failure. You learn a lot by, making the mistakes and making sure you do all the research. So, absolutely, Lauren, the entire team, Scott, Martin, Matthew, my boss, they're all very talented individuals. They're all really plowing forward, and it's a good motivator for everybody, right? So
Sure.
It's exciting times,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of gray hairs to attribute to that.
Well, listen, you said something here that didn't make a lot of sense. You say, you learn a lot from your failures, but then you guys must not be learning much, because I don't perceive you guys having many failures. You got one of the products that you come out, they work, you guys stand behind it, but your coordination of your team and the culture is amazing. I'm hoping that maybe Martin and the rest of you guys could come down and teach our government a little bit of that sort of working concept, that respecting each other, working together, and producing a great result. We could sure use it.
This is where I say, rock, bro. we just went apolitical to political. Oh dear, no, it is a cohesive thing. I was kind of teasing. Eric and I tease each other about what's going on here in the States, because it just seems so derisive at this time, and we got to get past it. We got to get improved. But
well, it was a backward way of paying a compliment, because the culture is great. When you go to a Distech event, and I got to put it in perspective, because you guys work really, really hard. But talk about a group of people that really like each other. When you guys come to the Controltrends Awards, you can always tell when Distech's in the house, because usually there are limos that pull out. You guys come in. I mean, you guys get rowdy. You have a good time. You cheer for yourself. You cheer for the other people when they win. And it's just really apparent that there are a lot of happy people working there. And to create that culture, I mean, it's not lost on me and Kenny how difficult that is. And I think anybody that's tried to create a culture realizes how difficult it is. And I think that anybody that deals with somebody like Distech that has a great culture realizes having a great culture leads to great customer service and great success. So anything else you want to share on the culture and how you guys sort of
what? I think that if you keep your employees happy, automatically your customers will be happy. So I think Distech Controls does a great job of keeping their employees happy, and that automatically comes out to the customer. So I think that's one big thing when it comes out to that. All these events we go to, it's exciting. It's a time where we can actually talk about what we've done. And when I say failures, you probably don't see them a lot, but we do have our ups and we do have our downs. But we're very proactive on anything that happens. So, you know, if you look at all the teams, R&D, product management, marketing, sales, you know, IT, accounting, everybody is really involved and they're quick on the ball. When something is up, we're proactive on getting things done and saying, okay, how do we do to fix this? How do we turn the ball around and get this up and running for our customer? So we have a lot of processes in place as well that prevent us from getting to that level, but we're pretty good, and that's what keeps it exciting.
Awesome. Well, listen, the training you're doing, I want to cycle back around to that real quick, because we'll put a post up on Controltrends. We'll also have a link. Just to be clear, this HVAC Controls Ninja training, that's open to everybody, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And is there a cost to that?
No, it's not. It's actually free. Go ahead and register to the sessions. Yeah. Once you register, whichever session you feel is comfortable for yourself, and honestly, register to all of them. If you get 10% from it, you're getting a lot out of it, right? But it's mainly just putting that data out there, getting that information out there to everybody, and letting them know that, hey, listen, this is what you should know about. You should be asking these type of questions, and you know, as much knowledge that we can give out to everybody, the better it is for everybody, as well as Distech, right? And you know what? A lot comes out of giving out that knowledge. People are gonna say, hey, did you ever think about this? And we'll go back and say, no, we didn't think about that. Maybe that's something we should put on, you know, on the roadmap, or something we should be thinking about. So, you know, by putting things out there, you get a lot back, I think.
Well, yeah, I agree. And it's quite a give. So on behalf of the industry, thank you. You know, Kenny and I, you know, sort of have a mission. We realize that a lot of the gray hairs are leaving the industry. There's going to be a dearth of people in our industry. So, you know, and I know a lot of people, when new employees come on board, you know, they have them listen to Controltrends as a way to sort of stay educated. So for all those listeners out there, even if you've had some HVAC controls training before, you can't lose doing this. I mean, if Distech's involved, it's going to be quality stuff. So I encourage you to register, invest in yourself, which is investing in the industry, and really appreciate that. Sam, is there anything else you guys got going on you want to tell our community about while we got you?
You know what? You know, we got Eclipse Building Intelligence coming in, you know, amazing UIs, you know, AI, developer portals. It's going to be a big game changer. And there's a lot of other things coming out, but I can't talk to it. But if I'm on the show next time, I'll definitely talk to that as well.
Well, yeah, listen, and you probably can't confirm this, but we heard rumors that Martin Villeneuve is working on a vaccine for the virus. Any truth to that? The Distech COVID virus
yeah, there's
vaccine?
Probably everybody at Distech will probably be testing that virus. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, awesome. He's one of our favorite people. And again, Sam, you guys have always been great sponsors of the Controltrends Award. So thank you for that. We really appreciate you guys with that. And listen, we'll put a link to register for the training class. You know, I know you got a great distribution network throughout the country. You know, Kenny at Jackson Controls, they're a distributor, and we're a distributor, and you got great distributors, great partners. Is there a great website just to direct people to in general, a Distech website? Let me go to.
Yeah, so if any more information about Distech and everything that we're doing, we definitely have all the latest and greatest information on our website, which is www.distech-controls.com. And
awesome.
I encourage everybody to go there and take a sneak peek on what we're doing, what's coming up, and don't be shy. If you have any feedback, anything at all, please don't be shy. We have a feedback center as well, and we do take voice of customer very seriously. And everything you guys have brought, Ken and Eric, to the table, we definitely have at the top of our list.
All right, well, guys, we really do appreciate that. And Ryan Sin and I are going to go down and get in the bubble and watch that professional basketball thing. We're headed down there. But best to my buddy Ryan Sin. And again, on Controltrends, we have the post. We have the link to sign up for the training class. Sam, thanks so much, man. Best to everybody, all our friends at Distech Controls.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys.
It was a pleasure, man. Come back soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Come out of that. All right, Kenny Smyers, man. Love the folks at Distech. They're fun to work with. We got so many great controls companies in our industry, and Distech certainly is one of the finest. So great stuff from them. And I might go through that workshop, you know, get up to date on my control skills.
There you go.
All right, brother. Well, listen, it's also the first of the month, which our second guest, the Venerable, and I'll let you introduce him because he's the guy we turn to for our knowledge. He's our soothsayer. He is our Nostradamus. He is our Renaissance man, soon to be enlightenment leader. How about introducing this
enlightenment leader? That is awesome. Oh my gosh, good one. Eric, I'd love to. We have Mr. Ken Sinclair, owner, editor of the automatedbuildings.com website. Probably one of the hardest worker, probably the most knowledgeable guy we know, and he gets to make us smart every week. So we get enriched every month by his editorials. And this one, Ken Sinclair, it's all about trust. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Ken.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm glad you guys trusted me to be here, and I'm glad I'm there.
Well, what we do want to sort of clear that up is, can we trust you, Ken? Because I know at least in the United States, most of us are having trouble trusting our politicians, and we're having trouble trusting our media. Boy, it seems like if anything, this pays is going to be called the age of distrust, at least in the United States. But you've sort of taken that. Your whole theme of your August issue is all about trust. Say more about that.
It was just something that kind of came on us as we're going through our Monday Alive. I think was probably some of the first things as some of our discussions came out that people don't trust other people, and even within the industry, that becomes a problem. And then you kind of start analyzing how we all got where we are, and we've all built communities of trust. Certainly, Controltrends. Roof, can't say the name of your company, and Kenny's companies are built on trust. And of course, even automated buildings, just the fact that it's been around for a while and people keep putting their information there, and we tend to report in a manner that the people trust that we won't abuse them and stuff. So yeah, so that was kind of the start of it, and then I kind of basically reached back, and a while back, Teresa and I got going on communities of practice, and so I kind of mashed those two together. That they become really the communities of trust as well. And in our deep roots, we trust BACnet, we trust Niagara Framework, we trust. Haystack, all of these organizations are built on trust and the trusted communities. And I kind of thinking that that's what we're going to have to do to move forward. We trust ASHRAE. So we're going to have to, a lot what we're having to do is we're having to make decisions real quick, and we don't know exactly what capabilities we all have. Technologies are changing so fast that we think we know what a person's supplying, but they actually have something even better that they're prepared to provide. And in addition to that, we're not really sure what the outcome is going to be, which is an interesting thing. We're starting on a journey, and it's pretty obvious to us that we're going to have to change in that journey. And so we have to go into that journey with people we trust. And communities.
Yeah, and communities. Ken, I just want to hop in for a minute, because the concept of trust is really nothing new. I mean, you've been in the business a long time. Myself and the team at stromquist&company.com have been in the business for a long time. Kenny Smyers and his team at jacksoncontrols.com, we've all been in the business for a long time. And, your reputation was everything. I mean, and I was taught that the very first day I started at work was, hey, if you don't know, it's okay to say you don't know, but you can never mislead a person. And I know in our company, there are only two things you get fired for on the spot. One of them is if you knowingly ask a customer to do something that's not in their best interest, you're done. You cannot take advantage of our customers. You have to be a trusted resource. So that's part of our process. And the other is, if you ever lie about anything, you're done. We can work with everything else, but for us, trust is built upon truth telling. And that's been around, I think, since the beginning of time. I think now where it gets really important, and then I want you to put it in the bigger context, now where it gets really important with the age of social media. I mean, if you let somebody down, I mean, they've got at their disposal a tool via social media or whatever, and everybody knows. It's a small industry anyway. So with social media, it's even more imperative that you are a trusted resource. But you hit on something I want you to expand upon it, Ken, which is, we got new technologies coming out so fast that we really don't know. And I guess part of what I would say as a distributor or a vendor, if you don't know, you need to let your customer know, well, this is a new technology, it should work. But speak about how that whole concept of trust and reputation has sort of expanded, not just with social media, but also in the COVID environment.
Yeah, okay. Well, in the COVID mode or pandemic, mode. Some actual people are actually coming up with that as a position for their controllers, is pandemic mode. We definitely, as an industry, we have to radiate trust. And frankly, any of our infighting that we tend to do on a daily basis comes across poorly when we present ourselves to folks who aren't in our industry. And ironically enough, more and more with the COVID calamity, we are presenting ourselves more and more to the industry, and HVAC, the control thereof, the analytics, everything we do is now in the public eye. And so I think it's very important that we keep building communities of trust and basically build our industry as a community of trust. And that's a difficult thing, because we've all kind of come at it from a proprietary point of view. I got my little controller, and it's the best controller in the world. And I'm not going to tell you what secret sauce it has inside of it. And we're coming into a world where software developers are basically taking just the best of the breed. If something was invented yesterday and it's a heck of a good idea and it works, we'll patch that into our mix. I'm just writing an article now here. Every time you want to talk about last month, my head is deep in next month's. But the next chapter, as it is combining, collaborating communities, competencies. Yeah.
Competencies.
Yeah. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say.
That's awesome. That's a tongueful.
Yeah, there we go. So anyway, that's interesting, because the upshot of that is we're trying to take control freaks and turn them into Scrum masters, and that's kind of a big leap. We've all been in the control industry forever. Every time we get together, we talk about that, and I think that may be our biggest problem, is we've all been at this forever, and we need to start thinking a little bit different. And that transition from control freaks to Scrum masters is kind of a big leap.
Well, Kev, real quick for our audience who doesn't know, what is your definition of a Scrum master?
Well, Scrum master comes from the way software people manage projects and stuff. What they found is you can't manage them in the old style we did, and it's all about agile management. And agile management has the identification of a Scrum master, who is basically the person who administers, but they basically are purveyors of the process rather than the technology. And so what they see is they try to separate the process from the technology and kind of push it ahead, and they keep us on a path and a story, and basically their stories can be added onto by any new technology that can fall onto it. And then also the way that all kind of works is that anybody inside of the Scrum can basically add to it. So it's a whole different kind of a thinking. It's a total floating collaboration versus a totalitarian proprietary way of looking at things. So it's kind of interesting to see that. Actually, 3 years ago, Brad wrote a great article about that we're all evolving to be IT folks, and to do that we need to change to agile management and basically follow the Scrum method of management. And they've kind of gone in that direction, and they've spun off some new products. A whole bunch of things have happened because of that.
You know, I've heard trust 5 different instances: community of trust, trust your partners, trust the buildings you enter, especially with COVID, trust the media, trust leaders. And then you said something about the Scrum thing that made me Google it right away so I could say something intelligent about Scrum, because I always thought Scrum was something that they did when they throw the ball down on the ground in the rugby world. You know, that's called a Scrum.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you hit on something that's really amazing, and I think we're going to see this word come up more often because it was associated with software, but it says Scrum value is affected by lack of trust in the Scrum team. Scrum Guide says when the values of commitment, courage, focus, openness, and respect are embodied and lived by the Scrum team, The Scrum pillars of transparency, inspection, adaptation come to life and build trust for everyone. So we might hear this come up, another Ken Sinclair first, but the concept of establishing trust, Eric, is so remarkably easy but hard. It's a concept. I remember in the Air Force, we had this clever phrase about we can neither confirm nor deny the presence of a weapon, you know? And I thought that was one of the most intelligent.
Well, that doesn't just
It doesn't build trust.
at all.
It doesn't build trust. No, but that's the way our world works.
Yeah.
In other words, we've been raised in this community of, although building automation and stuff that I know, we're so competitive. You don't lead by telling everybody what your weaknesses are or what you can't do. You emphasize your features and benefits that are your prime champions, so that we never really put a whole hell of a lot of weight on telling the truth. We didn't tell a lie, but we didn't tell the truth.
Right. Well, listen, Kenny, I got to tell you, this is an example, and it's counterintuitive, because your point is we all got to, we're all out there trying to make money, right? We got to pay the bills. But my most loyal customer, and he's retired now, was a guy at a big board of education. He liked me. He wanted to buy some infrared heaters for me for his book warehouse, his big warehouse. It was about, at the time, it would be about an $80,000 or $90,000 order, right? And he wanted to buy them for me. And I looked at the application. And I go, this isn't going to work the way you think it's going to work. He goes, no, it's okay. I definitely want to get these. So I basically told him, said, look, I think a lot of you in our relationship, I'm in it for the long term. This isn't going to work the way it's going to work. I'm not going to sell them to you. I'm sure there are plenty of other people that will, but it's just not going to work the way. And, and he gave the order. He was a little huffy. He gave the order to somebody else, and it didn't work. And ever since then, I earned his trust by doing something, by demonstrating something that was in his best interest and not in mine. So, Ken Sinclair and both Kens, what it gets back to when we talk about trust, it's a nominalization. It's a noun, right? I mean, it means different things to different people, but, how do we break it down into a process, an actual how you can, what can you do, right?
I just want to say real quick, I applaud Ken for doing this. And again, I was trying to get down into the sections. You have building communities of trust, creating outcome-based platforms of trust. And then, because I don't think we really are taught that. We had ethics. Business ethics came out, and then we had, we had compliance, and then we had collusion. We were coached by the industry what you can and cannot do. And I don't think it was ever chapter on trust, building trust. I mean, in other words, that was an outcome, like Eric said, if you did a good job. But I think we're going to be a little bit more interested in being able to trust the restaurant you go into, that they have procedures in effect, the building that you work in. You trust the elevator, you get into it, and you just blindly trust that it works. You're going to hit floor number 10, and you blindly trust it, to your point, Ken, about the communities of trust. Because you look at this thing that says Otis or it says whatever. But we're now entering a new era where you are going to evaluate the integrity of a manufacturer, vendor, contractor, distributor, and you will be looking for that trust factor. You're going to try to evaluate how much you trust that person.
Well, how do you know to trust somebody? That's the question, Ken and Ken. I mean, so yeah, I mean, absolutely, you're going to do that, but how would you guys know whether to trust somebody or not?
Well, I'd like to bring this example up. I just, in the chat window, just sent you guys both the URL of a article that we had on our site. 2009, February 2009, from a guy called Andy McMillan, who has something to do with BACnet. Basically, the title of the piece is Trust, the Primary Currency in an Open System World. Keep focused. This is 2009 on automated buildings. It takes work to earn it, care to nurture it, and only one poor decision to lose it. A great article written by Andy when he was in Chicago, and it starts with him getting food poisoning and not being able to go to the event, and starts to build on that kind of trust. Interesting that over 10 years ago, it's still the value kind of thing, and basically I'm bringing that back up and bringing it back into our face, how important this trust is going to be. The other thing about trust is when things get complex, technologies that we don't really understand. Cell phone would be a great example. We don't really understand all the gory details of how that works. So eventually we focus on a phone and we focus on a carrier, and we trust those two things to provide us our service. And we do that because there's so many complicated decisions in there. A lot of them we can't control anyway. We just have a choice of taking A, B, C. So we have to trust one of them. It allows us to move ahead faster. The younger folks, they're used to this kind of decision making all the time. They basically have to assume platforms. They have to assume who they're going to do their financing with, their online banking, all of that. So they have to immediately adapt themselves, do I trust this person or don't I trust this person or this company? By doing that, you can then make a snap decision. And if you trust them and then they do you over, you can untrust them and basically move to another one. So it allows us to sort of put umbrellas on various people and companies and if we give them the trust umbrella, then we're able to deal with them without going through all the complications of understanding who they are and understanding what their company does.
You make that leap of faith.
That way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the to your point, and by the way, the umbrella reference reminds me of Travelers Insurance and the trust thing. That's one of their logo things. But you're right, Eric, and I remember back when we first got into this thing, Eric, about 10 years ago, and you were telling me how your wife never buys anything unless she had third-party validation. She never took the manufacturer, the vendor's statement that I am the best, we are the best quality product. She went to the reviews. And I think that grew social media. I think we saw a tremendous collaboration back when you started your collaboratorium in HR. And again, that was, your community of expertise, but it really became a community of trust because the people there basically were an esoteric group of people that were more interested in the subject than certainly anybody else was. That's why we were at the meeting. But the truthfulness that came out in those conversations was frightening because it was a vendor's nightmare when somebody claimed that they were open and somebody in this collaboratorium says, no, they're not. Eric, you remember that one time we saw one vendor get up and say, we're open, and then two people challenged. One guy challenged. Yeah. I thought they were going to fist fight. But see, that was a trust. That was like, that was the origins of what I think you're driving at with this editorial theme of, you can make decisions more quickly when you trust. There's a woman named Laura Day who believes in intuition. It's that gut feeling. And before we were a refined, sophisticated civilization, we used our gut feeling to either run left from the dinosaur or run right. Run left, you go off the cliff. Run right, you go into the forest and find sanctuary. And it was a split decision. But you're so right. The carriers, when you talk about phones, and you talk about the eavesdropping and the we're being predators of communication, whether they're hackers or whether they're an agency. How can you trust your phone anymore? I mean, can you really, say what you want to say with 100% confidence that you're not being monitored or eavesdropped on, or some key word gets picked up by some program somewhere, and now next thing you know, you're latched and watched and whatever. It's a scary time. It's very difficult to get to that level you're talking.
Right.
Like where you're going with that, Ken, is the issue is if you can't trust, you can't move ahead.
Well,
if you don't trust your phone system, then you've got to either switch phone systems or you're immobilized.
Right.
And I think our industry is that way too, is if we can't reach out to someone we can trust to handle the portion of the industry we need handled, we are mobilized. So
I think we'll be using that referral message. We're using the Ken St. Clair, SneakerNet. We used to laugh about that. When you check stock in the old days in inventory, if you didn't have internet, you had SneakerNet. Somebody ran around with tennis shoes on and looked to see if you had the thing on the shelf or not. But I think you're going to have verification. I think that you're going to associate these communities to your point of trust. And within that community of trust is where you're going to really take your information that you're going to put your career on or put your investments on or whatever. It's going to be a very interesting network of trusted persons.
Well, no, agree, guys. And listen, Kenny, to your point about the third-party verification, my wife doesn't trust that anymore either because people will pay people to write reviews. The reviews, most of the reviews, you can't trust those anymore. So I think where I'd like to see this conversation go, because Ken Sinclair, I think you're right on it. And I think Andy McMillan was on it too. I mean, trust is the new currency. So I want, again, I've sort of alluded to this earlier in the interview. How do you go if I've got a company or an organization, okay, and Ken, you seem to be talking about technology, right? I mean, for the most part, if the technology works, you trust it. You take a leap of faith. If it works, then, it's great. If it doesn't, well, then you just go to the next technology. That part of it's kind of, I think, more simplistic than if you're a company and an organization, how do you build trust so that customers trust you? What's the process for that?
Well, I think for you guys, it's obvious that you have to trust the products that you're representing and the products you're putting into people's hands, and that's what's got you where you are right now. And I'm sure you've had a few that you trusted in the early stages that you wished you hadn't, and that kind of became a black mark on you. But fessing up to it and creating correction paints the path to trust. But
okay, hang on. You just hit on a key piece, okay? Because you used a cell phone analogy earlier on, right? And then Samsung had those phones that the batteries were burning up or whatever. So I think for everybody out there, one of the key things is we're all going to make mistakes. So one of the key things to earning trust is when you make a mistake, own up to it and make it right. I can't tell you how many particular products I've bought in the past where they didn't work or whatever, but they made them right. If you think about Amazon, for example, you get a product from Amazon, if it doesn't work, there's a 100% guarantee, no questions asked, right? So being accountable when it doesn't work seems like that's got to be one of the key pieces. It's got to be drilled into every culture. Agree or disagree?
Agree. And I think the other thing you have to do is you have to be a purveyor of trust, and you have to basically explain the potential holes in the trust network to your client. And if you have trust, and this is probably the story of almost all of your systems integrators that buy your products, is they've created incredible trust with their clients. And they basically, but they sit down with them and they talk about, we're going to try this new product. We're not really sure. It seems like it's going to work okay. Let's float out 50 of them and see how they work rather than buying 3,000 to start with, and basically involving their client in the trust procurement. So yeah, I think it's it's just what we've got to do, and of course it's all getting amplified. It's funny, almost everything we were doing without COVID. It's just COVID is just an accelerator. It's just making everything just go like a blur, and it's allowing, or it's maybe not allowing is the right word. It's forcing us to. One of the comments is there's decades when nothing happens, and then there's days that decades happen, and we're certainly in the days of decades happening. Changes that would have taken forever. The whole idea of people working from home. I mean, that process would have taken 10 years to occur to this level had COVID not come. The idea of medical services being done online, and actually having government support to do that, that would have taken forever with bureaucracy.
Okay, I think you're right, Ken, but you said something brilliant again. I want to capture it before it gets away. So we got step one to building trust is be accountable if there's a mistake and make it right. Own up to it and make it right. Step two, you just hit on, which is make sure your products work before they get out in the public's eye anyway. I know we have a guy that works for us. He's worked for us for 50 years, and he earned more customers. I mean, customers would just, whatever he says, we're going to do. And the reason was because he would never try a new product on his customers. The product would have to, it was exasperating for the vendors because they come and say, we got a better mousetrap. But until it was proven in the field and he knew, based on his standards, that product worked, he would not allow his customers to try it. So consequently, to this day, he has customers calling up going, should I use this or should I use that? They don't even question, because he earned that trust. And Kenny, you and I both know there are certain vendors out there that, we jokingly say they beta test their new products in the field, right? And there are other vendors that when it gets to the field, they're a lot of times they're not as quick to the market, but when the product gets to the field, with certainty that it's going to work, right? I mean, it's unusual.
I think there's like different categories of trust, and when you talk about I wrote down the word empirical. We used to kick the tires. What was that commercial? Let Chucky try it, with the cereal, because nobody wanted to be the first one off the boat. We have customers have a policy; they'll never be in the first generation of a product run because they're not going to be the scapegoat guinea. They test. But Ken, you said something really important that is in your editorial that I want to go back to because I think this is a very important statement. You say the trust is the new currency, now a commodity we need to create to embrace a remote renaissance. So you're tying it into last month's editorial, but you said we need to clarify and vocalize our personal trust while declaring our support. In other words, you're asking people to make a move, instead of being passive, to be active and say, look, I have experience. I know this community. I trust them. I encourage you all to do it, because you're saying that we have almost an inherent responsibility to declare the trust that we have on certain things. And that helps make everything move more quickly, correct?
I think that's Eric's example of the guy who basically tests everything because everybody honors his trust and looks up to him for that. So I think we all have to be those kind of people. And I think also we have to, but the problem is we have to make make great leaps of faith right now, because we've got things being presented to us that we've never seen before, and they seem to make sense. And we've got things coming from not outside of our industry, and we have to make decisions. So based on our experience, we need to say we trust or we do not trust that concept.
Well, and then another thing I wanted to make sure the community hears, that the Controltrends community sees that you did some pretty good work here, because what you did was you used a chain, and in one of the links says trust on it, and how come now you become the weakest link in the trust chain. So that is a remarkable. I like that association, that analogy. I think you guys it's good effort. Was that your idea or was that Jane's?
It was just a pretty picture that worked.
I love it.
I don't think nearly as much as you guys think I do.
I thought I can't really put this together well.
But you know what? That's a great example, Kenny. Right there, I trust Ken Sinclair more, because a lot of people would have just said, probably me included, that was my idea. It's great. So I mean, I think part of it is just telling the truth. Gets back to your intuition thing, Ken. I mean, we kind of know at a certain level when people are not being completely honest with us. So one of the things I admire about Ken Sinclair, and one of the reasons I think we trust you so much, Ken, is you tell the truth. You don't make things look different than they are.
Well, yeah. The other thing I tend to do too is I tend to not completely form an opinion, more provide a link to someone else's opinions, so they can. And quite often when people read my articles and follow all the links out, they come to a totally different conclusion than I do, and that's good. That's positive. I think is basically. And actually, that's a good segue into something else I wanted to talk about. Is Nicholas had an interesting article this month as well, and he calls it "Solving the Skill Shortage Gap Forever." And he says we're not only looking at skill shortage gap, but we're also the skill transfer knowledge gap. And that was the first time anybody had said that's probably part of our big problem. Is we got all this new stuff flying at us, and we're not doing a good job of putting it out to the people as to some of these changes. And kudos to ControlTalk. You guys are always, here's a new product, here's the guy talking about the new product. I mean, you work at that as your job, as your day job. That's good. But as an industry and as individuals, as systems integrators, I mean, we're all in the education business. We've got to understand these technologies and new evolving skills. The knowledge transfer gap. I think that's a whole new area for us to think about and how we're all going to bridge it. And I think in methods that you guys can help is when you actually put something together, a ControlTalk, and it has a focus of a particular product and how that product can make the world better, then it allows your people to view it, maybe download some of the product, work with it, and if they actually believe it, then they can reuse that video presentation. They can use social media to put it out on their networks, or they can send it directly to their client. So it's all about packaging and stuff. We all tried to ignore this whole social media, what the kids were doing, but what the kids are doing is becoming what we're doing. So we need to understand better how that's done. And we have to be, it's got to be a lot easier to bridge the knowledge transfer gap.
Yeah, well, I think that the times are odd or they're strange, but in the aftermath, I think we're readjusting, and reformatting our priorities, and I think it's ironic because Eric and I try to do the control trends the top trends in our industry and how they shifted around, and sometimes they just lock in place, like cybersecurity, and then the race to the small space, and thermostat of the year, and now I see that we're actually coming up with some ethics, some codes, and some changes in that regard too. That there's a certain number of social media conduits or portals where people go to, and I, not to just keep blowing smoke, but I think automated buildings has earned its place of trust. But the reality is that in order for us to work fluid as a society, we have to be able to trust. We have to be able to go to, that's why people spend so much money on marketing and come up with all these clever slogans and images and logos and stuff, is so that you can associate that. I remember the first few times that I was taking classes in marketing, I would say, why do you think a doctor always has a beautifully white bleached coat so it looks clean, sterile? Why do you think banks have pillars in the front of it and marble steps and whatever? Because you feel like you're walking into a place that has security and duration and whatever. But it was all kind of the imaging, and we're going through a transformation of our own imaging as an industry, right? So I think everybody's very concerned about it. But again, you're gonna have what would it be, a CTO, Chief Trust Officer? No, they actually have.
No, but Kenny, you could have that, but you guys are both giving me a great idea for a new Control Trends Awards. What do you think it'd be if you were the most trusted vendor of the year?
That'd be.
I mean, that would be one I'd put on my.
I wouldn't trust the voting system.
I know, yeah.
You guys. Where's the trust, guys?
Where's the trust? Actually, just a quick one. When Kenny says the chief trust officer, of course that would be the CTO, which could be the chief technical officer as well. But one that came up in our, we have a meeting every Wednesday to prepare for Monday, and one that came up in there was a new position in the C-suite, and it's the chief medical officer. I thought that was interesting, very interesting, that there would be a full doctor on a large company, because we're actually into those decisions right now, is we have to make decisions. Do we allow the people to come back into the building? Somebody has to sign off on that. Without due diligence, it was done by our chief medical officer.
That's
anyway, interesting times coming. And it also shows how far our tentacles are starting to reach into the industry. And again, that's why we have to be careful about what we say and how we present ourselves as an industry, because it's pretty easy for us to look like we're not trustworthy because we don't agree. So
there was a and I'm not going to say anything, names or point to anybody, so please don't do it. But we were at a couple sales presentations where if they asked you, say, yeah, we can do it. And then as soon as you get into your car, we start making phone calls and say, can we do it? Can we get, in other words, when integration was such an enormous leap, you talk about leap of faith, and some of the earlier things, I can clearly remember when we used to say that we were open and we had BACnet, for instance, but it was BACnet, proprietary BACnet, and for many, many years, and until we finally came out, I think the name Niagara framework, we really could say that we were open, we could integrate, because prior to that, just about every vendor said they were open, but they weren't.
That's correct.
And by the way, it's let Mikey try it. It was a Life cereal commercial. Mm-hmm. And then the two sister and brother huddled around. They want to know if they should try this new cereal. So they let the youngest brother, who's a little too young to know better, he tries it and he smiles and he likes it. So, but I thought that was relevant to what you're saying about trust. In other words, there's going to be people that constantly push the envelope and are trying the new technologies, and they're coming back. People like Alper Olsmesler from BASSG. Alper's always out there pushing the envelope, trying something new, seeing if it works. He's the first one off the ship, and sees how deep the waters are, and then comes back and shares with the community. So I think we saw Project Haystack do that in many cases. The people that were associated with there were a huge trust community that they were going to push this tagging thing and semantics to the nth degree, because then they really challenged the concept of openness and what was the uniform way to get the greatest efficiencies and efficacies out of your building automation system. So I think we're in the middle of a big one here. I think COVID, again, it gave us a time to recess, to sit still for a minute and understand what was now more important. As every state deals with this thing, and there's no uniformity. There's no uniformity within the state itself. One school district is not letting kids into their schools. They have to remote educate at home, putting this burden on the parents. If the parents are doing all the teaching, why the hell pay the teachers? There's got to be some kind of give and take there. They can't have a group of people taking money as being professional servants to the community and as teachers, and they don't teach. They don't want to teach. They don't want to go into the buildings. So we got a mess. And I think the only thing that's going to be like the first grounding measure will be trust, that you believe the people that you're working with and they're giving it the best they can do. And as a community, you all get together and make the best decision for your community. That's one good thing about having that breakdown of decentralized decision making. But it's also a curse because you got so many people that could take that opportunity and be mistrustful. They can use it for some sort of other motive or agenda, politically, and we're seeing it. We're living through it. It's getting tiresome though. But hopefully, with our industry, some of the leadership, some of that North Star work that you're doing, Ken, we will help keep people above board and make it a kind of prerequisite that you want to be part of a trusted community, because then you're going to be able to do business easier, faster, quicker.
Good. Okay, I'd like to respond to that. First of all, you started off with Alper, which is interesting because Alper and I just did a Zoom yesterday. He's basically putting together a series to proliferate his
Sandstar.
What is it? Control agnostic devices, and basically that the software can be loaded into several platforms. And they've really got working models of that. So it's pretty interesting, but that certainly is built on the mutual trust that we've built over the last 15 years working together. So that's interesting. The Monday Alive was kind of interesting. Last Monday, we invited Jim Young on, and Jim Young has a couple of things going on, more than a couple of things, of course, but they're, of course, trying to put together an event. And it was originally, as you remember, it was in Miami, and they basically had to pull away from that. And then I think they even had a few other venues. They've now focused on a hotel in Denver, and they are trying to make that hotel safe so everyone can come and feel comfortable, and trying to do it. They are basically running the event as a hybrid event, which I think is interesting. It will obviously have a remote social portion as well as an attendee side of it. Anyway, that was in itself was interesting. I think they're probably further ahead. I think the event's supposed to roll out in a couple of months. So
October 28th through the 30th. They've committed it. Yes, they've committed. They published it. It's going to be at the Gaylord Rockies Resort, October 28th through the 30th. So yeah, they've committed.
Yeah, so that's coming up quickly. I think that will be a good indicator to AHR as to how they're going to be able to roll this out. The ASHRI meeting was, of course, was a virtual meeting and was quite successful as reported back. So that's sort of a trend in the industry. Another thing Jim tipped, which was interesting, was this is online. If you go to Monday Live, you can actually listen to what words he said, but he was talking about the New York real estate market and how few people had come back in a place like Hudson's Yard, where there was like 176 people and 18 million square feet of space. That kind of dimension is there. The thing that stuck in my mind that I hadn't thought through was the fact that the places that are leased, and they're leased in long-term leases of at least 1 to maybe 3 years. So they have a financial obligation to pay their lease. The building owner has a requirement to provide a building with all the requirements that are in his lease. If the building owner shuts down the building, he breaks the lease. So they've kind of got each other.
Jeez.
They kind of got
Jeez.
each other. And so therefore, I think it's good news. I'm interpreting it as good news because the good news is that it forces them into a collaboratory of, I've got an empty building I'm not using that I'm paying for. And it allows the building owner some time that he's actually still getting revenue that he can think about how he's going to repurpose it or work with them to figure out how they're going to reuse this building. So I think rather than I'm canceling, I'm not paying rent next month and I'm going to leave. That event is not happening so much, I think, because these large companies don't want to lose their credit rating, so they don't want to walk away from a financial obligation that is clearly theirs. So yeah, anyway, some interesting dynamics there that I hadn't thought through.
Well, Ken, real quick, you've referred a couple of times to Monday Live. Our community might not be aware of that. It's a really cool thing. How about telling them about it and how they can get access to it?
Okay, every Monday there's a panel of us that get together and we're trying to figure out how to get through this COVID storm. And we talk about every Monday we pick a new subject and often bring in a guest speaker to speak to it. I think it was a little slow getting started, but it's actually starting to get some momentum now. Therese has an article on our, since we're originally talking about our August issue, she has an article called Jump into Monday Live Conversation. And she's created some pull quotes from some people that you know, Brian Turner and Brian Oswald. Both were on the show, and it was interesting to see what they have to say. So you can see we have some significant players from the industry sharing their things. So anyway, it's mondaylive.org, all one word, mondaylive.org.
Well, Kenny, listen, as we begin to wrap it down with our guest, Ken Sinclair, Sinclair, automatedbuildings.com. The August issue is out. Anything else you want to touch on with Ken Otto before we hop off, Kenny?
No, just again, it's another great read. We always put it into our control trends, try to catch that on the very release date or day after. And there's a lot of very intelligent writing about our industry on it. So please visit the site, automatedbuildings.com, but make sure you get down and see all those additional editorials. Mark Peacock has a nice article in there. And again, so I mean, you can't lose. It's free knowledge. So just it just takes time, investment of time.
How about you, Ken Sinclair? Anything else you want to cover before we?
Yep. Sorry, what was one I wanted to, because I think it's a good example of what we're doing moving forward. There's an article about the collaboration between Enocean and Aruba. And I don't know if you caught that, but Troy Davis and I chat in an email interview and had a little bit of a discussion with him via phone as well. So this is, I think, is going to be a trend for our future, is we basically, the core competencies of businesses are starting to combine your jelly and my jam and your peanut butter and my jelly and all that, put it together, and we have a better product. And what Aruba had a very sophisticated Wi-Fi systems they're basically portraying in the buildings. And Enocean saw that they could piggyback on that, and they've made that combination. And they basically have jumped up to build networks that are outside of the traditional AI, IoT, and that deploy very easily, self-discover, so are less maintenance and stuff. So I think that's a trend in the industry. And another trend hot on the heels of that I've just posted yesterday is the telcos, and they're all struggling with what the heck is 5G, G5 or whatever it is. And there's in Korea, they've actually announced that they're going to be providing building sensor connection services as one of their rollouts. So there's some pretty interesting big trends happening. I think that's another problem we've got, and why we have to depend a lot on trust, is There's just so many, everything we're touching is changing. It's difficult to find something that was the way it used to be. So we need to find people we can trust.
Well said, Ken Sinclair. Extra, read all about it. The August issue is at automatedbuildings.com. Ken Sinclair, as always, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Ken. Thanks.
All right, man. Hey, great stuff from Ken Sinclair. As always, we appreciate him. So with that, Kenny Smyers, anything you got to share with the community or want to share with the community? Or
Yeah, my daughter's ready to have our second grandchild. In fact, we got noticed during the show here that she is actually in labor. So we're real excited.
Congratulations, man. That is so great. Hopefully we'll know whether they got a little boy or a little girl.
The little boy, they cheated. They cherry picked that information. Yeah, we had
good. So do we have another Kenneth Smyers coming in?
No, they're probably going to stick, close to the chest. I don't know the answer to that, but it's not. I don't see Kenneth in the labeling.
What about Eric? You think they might name him Eric?
That might be more, yeah, because with a K and not the C, K, yeah.
I got you. That European way of spelling it. Well, then, all right. Well, Kenny Smyers, man, that is such great, exciting news. And
Thank you.
Man, well, listen, a special thanks to our guest this week, Sam Sharma from Distech Controls and Ken Sinclair's Automated Buildings. Be sure to sign up for the Distech workshop coming up, and then check out Ken Sinclair's automatedbuildings.com.
Yeah,
all right, big dog. With that, remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant, and send Kenny Smyers a congratulatory way to go, granddad.
Yeah, congratulations, Sabrina and Brendan. Love you. See you soon.